Yo, what's good, you beautiful soul? Welcome to a brand new video. I don't want to make this one too long because it's going to be a little bit about me. And I want this course to be mainly about you and about you learning the skill of communication, the psychology behind everything, about influence, learning how to become a closer or, one of your team members. If one of your team members is watching this, let's say you're a business owner, you want your team members to learn sales, you can go ahead and send them this course as well, have them make an account here on this platform, and they'll be able to watch it as well. But just a little bit about myself. My name is Wassim B. Monzer. I was born in the Netherlands, extremely lucky because my dad and my mom, they're Lebanese, and there was war in Lebanon at the time where I was born. And there's always been war. There's always been internal conflicts and poverty. And, my dad used to be part of the military at the time in Lebanon. And it was, not paying that well, and it was extremely dangerous. So, my dad wanted a way out. He escaped Lebanon at the time, we're talking 1998, by foot. Extremely dangerous stuff, fleeing away, finding any car that he could find to hitchhike with, go over the border, paid his last cents to bribe others so they can actually take him out of the country, taking a boat and ship. And long story short, he ended up in the Netherlands. And he ended up in the Netherlands. He tried to build a little bit of money up for himself when he came here, and then eventually, when he had enough money, he went back to Lebanon, and that's where he met my mother, and brought my mother over to the Netherlands. They got married, and that's how I was born in the Netherlands. So, extremely lucky guy is how I see myself, because I was in Lebanon like 2 weeks ago now, and what I see there, guys, it's freaking insane. The poverty, especially when I go to the city, it's crazy. People like on the high end, they're making 400, 500 bucks a month, and that's like if you are doing really, really well for yourself in Lebanon. And it's also hella expensive now because like the currency is worthless almost now compared to a couple of years ago. There was like a crisis that happened and the currency crashed, and now their currency is useless because you could have, go in the past, you go to the grocery store with one little bill to get like a sandwich, and now you need this stack of money from their currency, the Lebanese lira, in order to buy um, a sandwich. So, long story short, why am I doing what I'm doing? Why am I making this course and giving it away for free and having you watch this? And why do I get so much fulfillment from helping hundreds of people? Well, it's really simple. I don't really have another choice. God gave me blessings. He put me in a position where I was able to make a lot of money, get a lot of like really good opportunities, travel the world, work together with the smartest people in their field, and giving them closers and training their teams. And you know, all of that has been given to me, and with great power comes great responsibility. And I want to give back. I want to help people. I want to see other people grow, because that is the opportunity that was given to me when I first got started in sales. And for me, when did I get started in sales? In 2016, to be specific. I just checked my CV and I see that my first sales job was in 2016, and it was selling newspaper subscriptions on the street in the Netherlands. And the way it started was, I was just walking on the street. I was, back in the day, had a lot of acne, had long hair, was skinny. So I went from really fat to very skinny. I was like on a vegan diet, raw vegan at that time. And yeah, I became extremely emaciated, skinny. I had a lot of acne, long hair, very socially awkward. Um, didn't have the balls to approach anyone in public. Like that was the biggest nightmare, like crazy. And now I do it for fun. Now I enjoy it a lot. Even though I feel fear sometimes, when I go for it, it's instantly gone, and I enjoy the interactions. And I even when I feel the fear, I know how to overcome it. I know how to deal with it, if that makes sense. So that wasn't the case back in the day in 2016. Was just 18 years old, and uh, I got approached by this guy that's selling newspapers, and he was trying to sell me one of the newspapers and a subscription, and I told him, no, bro, I don't read the newspaper. I'm young myself, so. He was like, yeah, I totally understand, but we are looking for people at this moment actually to strengthen our team, because we need more people to stand here on the street and sell the newspaper subscriptions. Would this be something for you? And I looked at him and I was like, dude, there is no way I'm gonna do this. Like, that looked like fucking anxiety. That looked like the Death Reaper or the Grim Reaper himself, doing that thing. So he ended up giving me his number, and we stayed a little bit in touch, and he invited me to their office to just go and check it out and see what's up. So I go to this office, and there's pool tables, there's like guys, girls coming, and it's like party vibe, and I was like, what is this work? Like, I thought that, because I never had like these, like a real corporate kind of like job. I did web design a little bit at an office and stuff like that, but that's my image of like work. You sit at an office and it's boring and all that kind of stuff, right? Because that's what I experienced when I was doing the internship as a web designer, and then I got a little job there. But when I saw this vibe, I was like, what is this? Like, this is an actual job and you get like paid, and these kids were getting paid good amount of money, the kids that were working there. So that was already like a good first impression. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. And then a dude walks in, made a shitload of sales that day, and I was like, holy shit, how is that possible? Like, I can't even imagine approaching that many people, the amount of sales that you made, like just approaching those amount of people, let alone sell them and have them actually buy the thing. So I was like, okay, this is terrifying, this is scary, but I need to learn this skill. I need to learn how to be able to approach people. I need to overcome my anxiety of speaking to people, because it was destroying me. It was absolutely destroying my life. Like, I didn't know how to make friends, and I didn't know how to talk to people in parties. I didn't know how to enjoy talking to people and all that kind of stuff. So I thought, this would be a perfect opportunity for me to learn this skill, overcome these fears, this anxiety, and at the same time make a little bit of money on the side. So it was like overcoming the fears, anxieties, developing myself, and at the same time making some money. So it was like two birds, and I could hit them with one stone by taking on this job. I took on the job, and it didn't take long for me to get fired. That was because, first of all, I wasn't that good, and number two is I did something which wasn't allowed, which is I sold a man that didn't have an email. So I put my own email in the form, which was apparently not allowed. And then they saw it as fraud, and then I got fired from the job. So that was that, but that was a good thing, because after this job, I got into a phone sales job, which was cold calling. So that's not what we're teaching here, what we are going to be doing as a closer. No, we're going to be doing something way easier, but I got into cold calling, which means, I have a big list of people that signed up on a website or something, and I had to call them and sell them the product or service that at that point we were selling. And the main one we were selling was utility contracts. So we were making people save up a couple $100 per year on their total utility bill. Like think about gas and electricity and stuff like that. So yeah, I was calling these people, and like, 95% wouldn't even pick up, and the ones that would pick up, they would scream at me. And like the 1%, less than 1% of the qualified leads, that I would actually eventually get on the call, yeah, then I would have to, do the pitch and all that kind of stuff. And it was a tough motherfucking job, but it did build me up, and it did give me confidence. It did show me what is possible, what is capable. It was crazy, and I don't regret doing it at all. And it was like really good vibes. I met a lot of amazing people on that floor. But yeah, it was tough, and it didn't pay that crazy amount. Like I was making around 5 or 6K eventually when it was going well. And yeah, but it wasn't like any crazy numbers, and it was like, really like, tough, cold sales. So eventually I went to a mastermind event. Now this is around 4 or 5 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. I think around 4 by now. And a mastermind event is an event you go to where you meet a lot of entrepreneurs, and you guys network, you guys talk to each other. And this is where I first got started with the whole self-development stuff and watching videos online and trying to escape the matrix and stuff like that. Most likely that is the stage that you are in right now. Me around like 4 or 5 years ago. I got there and just talking to a bunch of entrepreneurs, just getting to know everyone there. And there was a dude there that was doing high ticket sales himself. He told me a little bit about it, and that's how I got into it. Which, was really life-changing nonetheless, because I didn't know it existed. I didn't know that it was a thing. I thought cold calling was like the top thing, because, if you've watched The Wolf of Wall Street, that's what they do there. They do the cold calling, right? They're not calling with people that booked in the call with them. No. They are calling. So I thought Wolf of Wall Street, yeah, that's like the upper echelon, like that's the maximum thing you can achieve in sales. And I didn't know about high ticket sales and inbound sales. Like, what the fuck? Like, no, that was like a dream world, right? But apparently it exists. Like I've, explained to you earlier in the other videos. It's very simple. There's business owners that have hundreds of people interested in their product. They don't have the time to do the call, so they need a closer. So I instantly got myself a high ticket closing position. I realized that it was very different from typical sales, so I wasn't successful right away with it because typical sales is very salesy, very pushy, because you're calling hundreds of people a day, you're filtering them out, you're not really in the mood to build a personal connection with every single person you're speaking to. And you cannot even do that. Like it's just too time consuming. So you have to do it fast, right? So I had that fast mindset, but on a high ticket sales call with a high value client, you can't do that. You have to relax, ground yourself, and build a connection. I didn't know how to do that in the beginning. I was like, build a connection, dude, what the fuck? I'm on a call here and they know I'm trying to sell them some shit, and let's just get straight to the point type of situation. But anyway, I realized eventually how life-changing the products that I was selling actually were. Because one thing that I was mainly into selling was biz op stuff, which is just providing people some kind of opportunity, like, learning how to build a web design agency themselves, or learning how to build their e-commerce store, stuff like that, right? So I would be calling with these people, closing them, and eventually they text me a couple months later saying things like, you changed my life, thank you for having that conversation with me. Without, the conversation with you, I probably wouldn't have invested this many thousands of dollars into myself to learn this particular skill. And I did it because, you know, the conversation with you that I had made me feel safe enough to do it. And then I realized, holy shit, wait a second, I'm not just fucking doing sales and some sales job. I'm actually changing people's lives by convincing them to do the thing that they've been thinking about for a while, but they were too scared to take that leap. And I was there with them on the call and I made them take that leap. So I did that for a couple of years, being a closer myself, helping people. And I started traveling the world and I started posting it on my Instagram. Obviously, when you're traveling, you just post a picture here and there. And I started getting a lot of messages from people of like, what are you doing? And how are you living in that villa in Spain? And how are you suddenly in Dubai? And how are you suddenly in Mexico, in Tulum? And how are you in Bali and in Thailand? Like, what's going on here? And you're traveling and you're so young. Like, what's going on? So I told them I'm just a high-tech closer. And a lot of people did not know what this was back in the days. It wasn't that popular. So I, just told them. And it started off with some friends, and I helped these friends get successful. And then because they became successful, they started traveling, they started posting it on their stories. And then eventually I started getting their friends texting me, being like, hey, my friend learned this skill from you. Can I also learn it? And before I knew it, I was coaching a bunch of people on how to become high ticket closers. And it started off very small, just, doing Zoom calls with these people one on one and in a group setting. And it eventually just exploded into what QSA is right now. And, I've been very blessed and I'm very, very, very grateful to have helped so many freaking people achieve these results. People like Sufyan, like Francie, like Herman, like Daniel. The list goes on and on and on. And man, you can watch those case studies yourself and then you'll know exactly why I do what I do. And this is a little bit my story of, how I became a high-ticket closer and eventually a high-ticket sales mentor myself, how QSA got started. Yeah, one last thing about QSA is, why is it called Quantum Sales Academy? Well, it's very simple. I like to go to the root cause of things, the deepest core, right? I really don't like teaching sales in the way of, okay, so this is the objection that, the prospect gives you, and this is what you have to say to the prospect. Never had I had a script in high ticket sales in front of me reading, because if you do that, the prospect knows you're reading off a script, right? A framework is very vital, but a script, you want to learn sales from your heart, right? You want to know it from the depth. That's why it's called Quantum Sales Academy, because if we go to the smallest particle that exists, it is a quark, which is a quantum particle, smaller than an atom. So when we say Quantum Sales Academy, we just mean learning sales on the deepest quantum core level that you possibly can. That's why it's called Quantum Sales Academy, or QSA. You learn it from inside out, meaning there's no, scripts and fancy things that you say to your prospect when they say something to you. There's none of that. I just teach you the psychology behind the whole thing. And when you learn the psychology behind the whole thing, you're able to sell from your heart, having genuine conversations. You avoid burnout. Sales rep burnout is a big thing. No burnout with this method because it's just genuine, it's authentic conversations. That's the last thing I wanted to share with you. And hopefully you watching this video right now can be my next case study, where I'm having an interview with you, talking about how you got to 10K, 20K per month, whatever your goal is as a closer, and how obviously your personal life changed as well by learning this skill and becoming more open. Thank you for watching. See you in the next ones. Enjoy the hell out of this freaking course.